Chapter 2. Somewhere in North Africa. He and Hans felt like pirate captains, coming upon the deserted camp and the Tommies' rations. Tins of meat and sausages, fruit and biscuits hastily buried in the sand. They'd shared their bounty with a few of their gruppa, all of them eating like wolves, inhaling the food before the flies got in. Eric could scarcely remember what it was like to eat without batting away flies. At least the night had passed quietly. He'd slept like a babe with his full belly. For the first time in months, Eric's dreams were not of the war or of the Afrika Korps, but of home. He and his brother were bookended by their parents at the dining table. Mutti, Vater, and Friedrich lifted their glasses to him as if toasting some good news. It was not much, that pleasant dream, but precious in its ordinariness. Eric was reluctant to wake, to leave his family, especially his little brother Friedrich, behind. But his bladder was insistent. As others in the camp began to stir, Eric pulled on his shorts and shirt, checking his boots for scorpions. Almost worse than scorpion bites were the infections from the cactus thorns, but those were finally healing. Things were looking up. In addition to last night's feast, they'd been able to stay put for a few days. Long enough to set up a camp, to dig into the hardpan and pitch the two-man tents. He bunked with Hans, who was not bad for a Bavarian. At least he didn't snore. Outside the tent, Eric stretched, smacking his lips. When was the last time he had truly quenched his thirst? How did the Bedouins survive in this miserable desert? It was crawling with enemies. The brutal sun, the flies, the sandstorms. And of course, the Americans. He nodded to Oskar, exiting the nearest tent. Guten Tag. Oskar nodded back, lit a cigarette. Eric continued on to the slit trench they'd used as a latrine. He relieved himself, then did up his shorts, shivering. It would be beastly hot soon, but the morning air still bullied him with last night's chill. Despite being a decent student, he had been astonished to learn that, in this desert, the temperature could vary 40 degrees between day and night. It was a wonder they hadn't all succumbed to pneumonia. Eric moved away from the latrine trench, his boot crunching against the sandy crust atop the hard stone. He took another step and hesitated, aware of a vibration in the bedrock. A vibration that traveled through his worn leather boot soles, up his legs, and straight into his gut. His head jerked up, eyes scanning the cloudless sky. B-17 bombers. The Americans. "Take cover!" he screamed the warning to his comrades. Why he even bothered, he did not know. This miserable stretch of grit and pain was hardly like the thick forests back home that swallowed men with ease. Here, there was nowhere to hide but the few bomb shelters and trenches they had been able to carve out of this unforgiving rock. But Eric ran anyway. What else was there to do? "Hans!" His tentmate could sleep through anything. "Take cover!" Eric did not hear the bomb. He saw it, or rather, saw the pummeling fist of dust and rock and debris it sent skyward. Blown like a matchstick across the sand, he crashed against a panzer. Dazed, he shook himself, took inventory. Everything seemed to be in working order. He staggered away from the tank toward the tent he shared with Hans. It wasn't there. Now, as he fought to stay on his feet, he had a vague memory of someone. Oskar? Helping him put his boots back on, handing him a canteen of water, offering words of comfort. The first thing he was truly aware of after the bombing was an officer waving a white flag, of his comrades throwing their weapons down, raising their hands. Eric shook his aching head, trying to make sense of the scene. A very tall American soldier, with corn silk hair and inexplicably kind eyes, greeted Eric in perfect German. "Für dich, mein junger Freund, der Krieg ist vorbei." For you, my young friend, the war has ended. By nightfall, Eric and his unit were in a holding camp. Each man was asked to show his Zoldbuch, his military identification booklet. Eric had no trouble with the soldier exam.